we're going to go ahead and record. Let's get all this stuff lined up. Plug it in, plug it in.
MC Johnson.
You know, these some old ass references. Oh my God, bro. Like, people are going to think, like,
he's decrepit.
All right, we've got more of the Wasteland built up at this point. Perspective is required. We need to see the location through someone's eyes. It's not enough to just see the space. We need to experience it. How exactly do we do that? The tried and true way is to give us someone to anchor to. Maybe we'll revisit them for the details later, but we have their eyes. So let's talk about what she sees. This was not a part of the study, nor was it completed during the study, but it was a narrative piece that I felt was important. The idea for the entire thing actually came around fall 2023 after I finished Daybreak. At least, I think that's when that happened. To initialize the plan for this, I sketched the bystander to this chaos and wasn't sure where I would take this. Who she was had become integral to the project. Her aspirations and dreams for what she lost had come through. The thing about this is, I tell stories. At least, that's what I tell people. I even reference it here. It's to the point where I'm compelled to weave a narrative into random pieces of art I do regularly. Sometimes the story itself takes on a life of its own and drags me into it. There are things during these experiences where I feel like I'm just along for the ride, like I'm just observing the world around me change. Sometimes it's a good change, and other times it's not. That's the nature of storytelling. Ultimately, I wanted to illustrate what that looks like in a person. This piece of art carried me through the completion of the project. I stepped away here and there and always found myself back to looking at this. If I could feel a connection between this art and any of the experiments, I knew it was a success. Who is Witness? She is all of us. The moment of shock that rings out and unexpectedly sometimes lingers. I have a feeling that we will see much more of her in phase 2. But for now, we will stick with this side portrait. Understand that in every space we've seen, the Witness has been there. What she encounters in phase 2 will be completely determined by the study itself. Let's move on. So, we're finally in the last leg of phase 1, and that almost pushed me past the point of performing to the best of my ability. Not in a good way either. Can't put that pressure on myself too much, otherwise I won't be having fun, and that's definitely not the artist I am. I painted in some rough water details, then decided that if this was going to be more, I needed to deepen the colors and solidify the shapes. Duplicating and heavy shading got me mostly where I wanted to be. At this point, climbing out of the pressure, I figured I could use something to inspire myself. I started picking random Procreate brushes while adding color and values to the trees. After doing it a few times and finding certain brushes that really helped, I felt like I was breaking out of a shell. Side note, the main topics are reoccurring, but the different aspects of them make them way more than what I can address in a single piece of artwork. Sometimes experimenting with something abstract is the way to go, even though you're doing a serious piece of art. This might sound similar to something I've said before, but the difference here is staying in the confines of an art piece. You're not going to have the answer all the time, You're also not going to find the right way right away. But maybe you feel like you're right there and you just need a little push. In digital art, we have a huge advantage here, especially if you're using Procreate like I am. Go to your time lapse and follow your process over again. Traditional artists can do this, you just gotta set up a camera and record. You don't have to share it with anyone if you don't want to. I've done this a few times and it immediately showed me the difference from step 1 to step 1000. Instant confidence boost. Then I just make a new layer to experiment in, and before I know it, I'm annoyed at the fact that I can't blend two colors together with them on separate layers. The second I hit that realization, I know that it's time to merge. The thing about this is I end up circumventing a problem by giving myself a different puzzle that I feel more comfortable with. Understanding how and why I do this is what pushed me to begin those introspective videos in the first place. So of course I ended up opening Daybreak for placeholder assets because I did that with everything else. So why wouldn't I do that here? Just knowing where things should be placed helped me just like it did in Singe. There's actually a document I keep in Procreate specifically for assets that I've made that I'm super proud of. I think I started during the Spider-Verse experiment. Is that right? I specifically remember putting the buildings from like Adrenaline in it or something like that. I should use those again sometime. By now I'm super confident with this as all the other things are working in the way that I want them to. Duck is in full force here. This happens pretty quickly here, but after putting in a bit of work on the water, I decided what I really wanted to do to have fun here was put the bounce lighting and reflections in. When I tell you this felt so good to do, I couldn't be more happy with how it turned out. The logistics and how I was doing it was a small puzzle in itself, but once I had the path, I was super excited to get the whole thing looking how I wanted. I actually had to do it a few times to blend those pieces together so I didn't leave any holes in it. I used the surface and water textures to kind of meld the view so the visuals don't really show any openings. In my opinion, it came out pretty nice. Something I was more self-conscious about was the ground texture. I felt like it didn't do it justice in Singe. I was very right about that. And I was determined to do much better with Divide. There was a lot of experimenting here, but the more gravelly I made it look with the big rocks and things, the more it came together. I knew I was more and more satisfied with it when I started thinking about how the lighting would, shine in this area and what it would do, how good it would look. I had it in my head that this was the right way to go at that point. I had worked heavily on the beauty, but now I needed more of the decay. Again, yes, I grabbed assets from the study, so what? You ain't gonna fight. I knew I wanted this tree to represent the very nature of this piece. It had to be partially affected by what happened here. The placeholder from Daybreak was not gonna cut it. But this one, this one asset right here from the study definitely was. I even had a few more in the background. Eventually, the idea of a fog from like a morning dew started to creep in, and let me tell you, if in phase 2 I revisit any of these with the ideas proposed here, I will 100% be adding all of those small little details in. It just full-on calls to the atmosphere. We were feeling good here. Everything was coming in. Tree definition was being worked from large to small, just like it should be. I was adding more ground definition to boost it a bit more. Then my beautiful friend, the sky, showed up to present itself to me. As always, it was a delight to illustrate, especially with the mountains in the background. The moonlight was a great part of this and added to the duality of this art. So did the sunlight creeping over the trees. It was a stylistic choice. I added one more texture to the water, lighting to the trees, and went into my finishing touches. There were so many differences here, and like I said, I started out just dumping color in and comparing it to a reference, but then when the vision came, it was bold, just like I like it. I completed this and ended phase 1 of this study, not realizing that all the things I had done would push me into new explorations, just like the chill light experiment. Looking back at it now, I can't wait for all of these studies that are coming from this. But we end phase 1 here with the 4th scar, Divide. Well, guys, there we go. That's the 4th scar, Divide. And I don't know if I'm going to leave this in or not at the end of the video, just me rambling about how annoyed I am about where that script went, but whatever. We'll move on from that for now. I'm sure I found it or rewrote it and was really annoyed because it had a lot of important notes in it. Anyway, yeah. So guys, I am actually really glad I was able to get Wasteland done. At this point, Wasteland has been like a huge project, a huge experiment that I was really excited about. And I've been excited about it, but like I said, I stepped away from this project multiple times just to figure out some other things, like to go after some other exciting pieces of art. And so now I'm in a space where I get to find a new big project to focus on. And also, like I said, so many studies are coming from this. The sky study was already figured out. Like, I already knew what I wanted to do with that, and I've actually already started it. But there's like further tree studies, ground studies, so many different things that I want to do specifically because of what I worked on in Wasteland. So you guys will see that eventually. You'll see all of these studies one day because I can't help but want to do them all. With that being said, though, I hope you guys enjoyed getting an insight on Wasteland. There definitely will be a phase 2. It's going to be after I accomplish certain things. But once I do start dropping phase 2, I want there to be a noticeable difference. Huge noticeable difference. So, until then, I'll see you soon.